Hello YouTube, this is TheStabbyBrit, and I thought I'd take a break from arguing with the internet to talk about a game I'm very fond of. No, it's not Fallout for a change. It's Warhammer 40,000. Now, Warhammer is on its, is it what, 7th edition now? I've honestly lost track. But recently I've seen a lot of new box sets coming out, and there seems to be a bit of harking back to olden times. What with the latest box being Death Watch versus the Genestealer Cult. So I thought I would take a trip down memory lane and dig out my copy of Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader, aka First Edition 40k. Now, this is effectively going to be the first video of an infrequent series that I am calling Early Installment Weirdness, and you will understand why as I start to describe some of the madness that I have before me. Hopefully I'll be able to provide you with appropriate artwork. If not, you'll just get to look at the beautiful cover art by, who the hell did this picture? Give me a second. This guy deserves... cover painting, John Sibic. There we are. Fucking iconic piece of work. So, Rogue Trader came out in 1987. It's almost as old as I am. And this is a game unlike anything else you have ever experienced. This is 40k at its weirdest, and it's not just because of some of the artwork. I mean, fucking hell. This is old school Games Workshop. You know, if you've seen some of the really old artwork that they produced, you will know exactly what I mean. It's fucking trippy. Beautiful, but deranged. Now, where do I start with the craziness that is Rogue Trader? I think I really need to start with the rules, because this is a rule system unlike anything I have experienced before. I mean, keep in mind this is 40k. This is a squad-based game. You know, you're meant to have squads of 5 or 10 models, plus your vehicles and your heroes. Yet, bizarrely, when I flick over to the shooting phase section, there aren't actually any rules for firing as a squad or targeting a squad. Apparently, according to the rules, you can just declare you are firing at individual models within a unit, which is a little bit peculiar. Some of the other hilarious things in this rule system. One of my favourites is in hand-to-hand combat, where it states, where is that? Here it is. Yeah, disadvantaged opponents. Sometimes, model will be disadvantaged in some way. It might be unconscious, asleep, or routing. An opponent who is unable to fight back has a weapon skill automatically rated at 1, which means that your typical Orc or Imperial Guard hits an unconscious opponent on a 4+ in close combat. Space Marines are slightly better. They can hit an unconscious opponent on a 3+. That tickles me. Probably more than it should, but I'm sorry. I just have this mental image now of Cato Sicarius. I am the greatest swordsman in the Imperium. Ha! I missed an unconscious person. Oh dear. Yeah, and then there's the vehicle section. I'm gonna have to actively read for you, describing how to turn a vehicle. This is under turn radius ratio. A non-hovering vehicle turns by wheeling rather than by making precise angular turns. The radius of the wheel always equals the forward speed of the vehicle in inches, multiplied by the turn radius ratio. Distance travelled by the vehicle is measured along the inside of the curve. And there is a handy diagram. So, how many of you, off the top of your head, can calculate the inside of a fucking... Yeah, you have to be able to calculate the inside of a fucking curve. And you're given... It's just fucking ludicrous. Can you... Did anybody actually fucking do this? I mean, seriously, did anybody actually play the rules as written? I mean, fucking hell. It's like... You'd have to do the maths for it, wouldn't you? You'd have to be able to calculate. Maybe if you worked out in advance your common things, you know, like, okay, my Land Raider's got a speed of 6 inches and a turn radius of 1, so therefore this is the angle I need to make. And I mean, what the fuck were they thinking? It's brilliant, don't get me wrong. I would never ever actually play this rules as written. I think I would just say, you know what, fuck that noise. You can make a 45-degree turn halfway through your movement. How about that? That seems easier. And yeah, there is more craziness. I mean, there's aircraft in here, so that's even more fun, because not only do you have to be able to perform fucking advanced mathematics to turn your aircraft, you've also got to keep track of elevations and bullshit like this. It's absolutely fantastic. I can't believe anybody ever actually used vehicles in games of Rogue Trader. And just the there's the pages and pages and pages of D100 tables. It's beautiful. I mean, I've got here the table for mutations, and there's a D100 table in really tiny font, and then let's see, 1, 2, 3, call that 4 because most of that's artwork. 4 pages. 4 A4 pages worth of mutations. It's crazy. And it gets worse in some of the expansion books. I mean, if you ever stumble upon Realm of Chaos Slaves to Darkness, that book is... It's got D100 tables for everything. It's got D1000 tables. I mean, they went off the fucking deep end with that book. It's fantastic. But back to Rogue Trader. I mean, you've got everything you could ever want in this book. It's entirely possible. I was dicking around with it earlier, and I managed to roll up a Space Marine commander who uses a fucking musket. It's it's brilliant. Yeah, but you've got things like Space Marines who could be armed with lasguns as standard. I mean, there is no... Again, everything is decided by a random dice roll. Everything is random in this game. You've got equipment tables galore. You've got random grenades, random pistols, random combat weapons, random heavy weapons, random support items. You've got table after table for creating random vehicles of every configuration. Random juggernauts. Keep in mind a juggernaut is a vehicle big enough to play a fucking game of 40k on top of it, and they felt the need to include rules for it. They even go ahead and say that you are never ever supposed to actually use the very heavy weapons tables. These are guns that are meant to be something to fight over. But on the off chance you did decide that your game really needs to have an anti-starship laser in it, they provided you with rules for that. I mean, what kind of lunatics were working at Games Workshop when this was created? I do not know. But I think it's a Games Workshop I would have liked to be a part of. I'm just out of interest wondering just how much bloody damage some of these guns actually do. I mean, you've got things like defense lasers and plasma cannons, which, if I'm not mistaken, yes, pretty much, yeah, they can pretty much one-hit kill any vehicle. If you actually hit and, you know, they're strength 10, so why not? Rogue Trader is, I think it's a book every 40k fan should read. This is where 40k started, and while so much of it is weird, I mean, like the Space Marines, for starters, they're toughness 3. Space Marines in Rogue Trader are basically just Imperial Guard sergeants. That's basically what they are. They're just slightly better than normal humans with slightly better gear, but they're also thugs. They're outright deranged lunatics who are drawn from the most barbarous and violent worlds in the Imperium, and just given enough kind of hypnotherapy and drugs to make them slightly more controllable killers. They are definitely not the Space Marines you know today. But yes, every 40k fan should have a look at this book. I mean, it's got the Imperial Army, it's got Space Marines, it's got Eldar, it's got Space Dwarfs. Who doesn't love Space Dwarfs? It's got Zotes. The less said about those guys, the better. I mean, we've got like orcs. I don't think they're quite the orcs as they became. Although there is something instantly orky about them. There's something instantly recognisable, which is nice. And yeah, it's just the fact that a lot of the lore as well is it's present, and it's just a little off from what we're used to. But in other ways, I mean, you've got the whole idea of, you know, the Emperor has ascended the Golden Throne due to events that have been lost to history. Chaos Space Marines basically didn't exist at this point. You've got the 1,000 chapters of 1,000 Space Marines. You've got all the stuff with the Astronomicon and warp travel. You've got the Arbites, the Custodes. You've got rules for all these guys. You've got navigators. You can field all the crazy things that have basically just been relegated to background now. And of course, you've got the bestiary. You've got just pages and pages and pages. This book's falling apart, sadly, so I need to be careful the pages don't actually fall out. But you've got rules for enslavers. The lore fans will know about the enslaver plague. The Psychneunine, however you pronounce that, the psychic parasites from the book Thousand Suns, they're in here. You've got the Zotes, as I mentioned. You've got the first of the Tyranids. They were just a monster. They weren't actually a race. You've got the original Gene Stealers. You've got Jakero. There's rules for Slan in here, which is bloody lunacy. Yeah, it's like, you name it, it's in here. If you've ever had a burning desire to have a grok stomp across your 40k battlefield, Rogue Trader has got you covered. And of course, if all of this isn't enough, if all the armies, if land raiders and gene stealers and enslavers aren't enough, you've even got rules for hostile plant life. Pages and pages of hostile plant life. It's weird and it's wonderful and it's crazy. It's everything about this book is ever so slightly off. And yet I fucking love it. I think Rogue Trader is my favourite edition of 40k. Hands down. I fucking love this book. And of course you've got the original Black Dark Angels with the red stripe down their helmet, the Disciples of Caliban. I think it, or was it the Consecrators? One of the two. They inherited that colour scheme. Seriously, if you are a fan of 40k, you need to read through Rogue Trader. And if at all possible, play a game of it. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it to bits. So yeah, this is just me waxing lyrical about a game I've been hugely fond of for a very, very long time. Back to my usual nonsense in the next couple of days. Job's good.